Welcome, everybody, to our first of 4 sessions where we'll be talking about AAC Communication Partner Strategies. The idea here is for you to learn a quick tip that you can implement over the course of the week, and then we'll keep adding to your bag of tricks over the next 4 weeks. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. So I do want to start with a land acknowledgement this morning. I want to acknowledge that we are calling in from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. We live in North Vancouver, which is a beautiful land, and even on these rainy mornings, I'm so glad for the stewardship that people have taken to take care of the lands over the many, many millennia. So I'm a speech pathologist, and I've been working as an AAC SLP at North Van School District since 2014, but also I've been working with AAC users since about 2006. This is my plan for our 4 sessions. Today, we're going to be talking about weighting. Session 2, we'll talk about giving choices. Session 3, teach more, test less. And session 4, follow their lead. Some of you may have heard of some of these strategies before, but even if you have, we hope to give you a bit of a refresher because these strategies are really, really important. So there's no prerequisites. If you just want to watch this video, that's fine. But I am going to be talking about things like multimodal communication, core vocabulary, and modeling without expectations. If you don't know what those things are, I do recommend that you watch our intro to AAC video. We just recorded it last week and it is up on YouTube. This QR code here will take you to that video. And I do recommend that you watch that if you don't know what these things are. Like I said, some of you are watching as a live event. You can use either the Teams software or the iOS app. I think there's also an Android app as well. But just so you know, there are some functions in the computer software that don't seem to be in the app versions. And I don't think it's going to be a problem for any of you because you're just watching. But if you are having problems, switching to a computer software might give you better results. If you're going to be watching the pre-recorded sessions, if you're an SD44 employee, you can check your calendar event and there should be a link right in that calendar event. You should see a little thumbnail. It won't be the edited version, but it will be in there. If you're watching this on YouTube at a later time, we have a training videos playlist and I'll be putting these videos into that playlist. And this QR code will take you there. So where do these strategies come from? They come from something called best practice. So there are people out there doing research around AAC and what works and what doesn't. And so we are talking to you about the research-backed strategies that have been around for ages, for the most part. But we're also trying to balance that with listening to adults with disabilities. This is something that we've been really trying to do over the last, I don't know, especially since the pandemic, I would say. We like to look up people with lived experiences. So Rachel Dorsey and Emily Lees are 2 autistic speech language pathologists that I follow. This is part of something called neurodiversity affirming practices. We have a video on neurodiversity affirming practices as well, and I will link that with one of those YouTube tile things. This might be a little bit different than the way you're used to doing things, but we encourage you to try them anyways. I think that we all need to have a growth mindset and continually be discovering new ways to do things. And just know that the things that we're recommending here today are backed by research and are, I guess, neurodiversity affirming. And so those are 2 really important parts in selecting what strategies we use with our students. Okay, so we're going to start with a video. These videos are me and Kim, and no comments on the acting skills, please. Hi, Kim. How's it going? How's your weekend? Did you do any baking? I know you like baking. How about cooking? Did you do any cooking or climbing? Or did you and your husband do anything? Oh, you must have had so much fun on the weekend. Yeah, I know. You really do lots of stuff on the weekend. Using the chat feature that we have in Teams here, what's wrong with that video?
Good morning, everyone. I think it just, you didn't stop to hear from the
Kim?
person who stayed in front of you.
Yeah, I didn't stop. We have a comment in the chat, talking too much. Yeah, you guys got the idea. So Reiko is asking too many questions, and I'm really bombarding Kim with questions. Like it's one after another. And Kim doesn't get a chance to think, and Kim doesn't get a chance to answer. And so what could Reiko do instead? What do you think? Yeah, ask and wait for a response we have in the chat. Yes, wait time is something that's really, really important. Slow down and wait, we have in the chat. Yes, absolutely. What we want to do is we want to slow down the interaction and wait between questions. And why is it so important to wait? There's a whole bunch of reasons. I asked Kim a whole bunch of different questions. And so Kim might have been thinking, which one of these questions am I supposed to answer? Right? And especially if we have a student that has difficulties with social interactions, they might really, really be wondering which question should I be answering, right? And the questions were related, but not the same question. So she couldn't have said yes or something like that to cover all of them, right? Each one needed a different answer. It could also be that we need some processing time. A lot of AAC users need additional processing time. So what I mean by that is I ask a question and the question takes time to get in there and the AAC user needs time to think about it for a little while before they can think about their answer. And so that can take about 10 seconds for some people. So I'm going to pause for 10 seconds right now. So in terms of 10 seconds, this is what that feels like. Okay, so if I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to say, what did you do this weekend? That's 10 seconds. That's a lot longer than we're used to waiting to answer a question, right? So this is going to take work from you guys to do this. What I encourage you to do is actually count to 10 in your head to stop yourself from asking another question. This is something I had to work really hard at when I first became an SLP. The other piece is prompt dependence. And this is something we see sort of long term. Some students, if you're constantly asking questions, become dependent on you asking a question before they answer. So there's something that we call initiation. So initiation is the student or child, the AAC user, thinks of something they want to say or ask, and they kind of come out with it on their own. Somebody who is prompt dependent might always need somebody to prompt them in a specific way in order for them to begin communication. And so that might not seem like a bad thing, but when you think about the fact that a lot of us here are not family members, right? We're people that will eventually be faded out of this child's life, whether because they move on to high school, they've graduated high school, I've moved to a different job, what have you. So if I'm the only one that knows how to prompt the student, then they might never initiate that communication because nobody's prompting them in the right way. That's sort of like the worst case scenario, right? So we don't want to start that cycle. We don't want to set it up so that I ask you a question and then you communicate, and that's the only flow of things. What we want to do is have these awkward silences and have the student go, oh, I think I'm supposed to say something, right? So how do I do this? What you want to do is you want to set up an opportunity for communication and then wait. And then when we see some form of multimodal communication, it could be a body movement or a gesture or a facial expression to start. Then what we're going to do is we're going to model language with no expectation. So I'm going to use my AAC system and say a word or two, and then follow through. Okay. So in this situation, we have a jar of marbles, and marbles are my kiddos' favorite. They're absolutely their favorite. And so we have a lid on this jar, and they need my help getting to it, right? And so I think as nice people, it's natural for us to be like, well, you can't open this jar, so let me open this for you. So in this scenario, it might be a snack or something in the jar, right? You might open it for them because you know they can't get in, and put the open container in front of them. But I ask you, what would happen if you didn't open the container for them? Right? I find that kids will either try to open the container themselves and sometimes succeed, right? That's great, independence. Sometimes they need help with that. So what we're going to do is put this container, and I think part of the key here is like they need to be able to see what's inside to motivate them to then ask for help, right? So I might put this in front of my student and wait 10 seconds. Ready? And in that time, they may have communicated in some way. They may reach, they may look, they may lift it up even, right? Sometimes they might hand it to you, right? So because they're like, oh, you're the person that helps me open stuff. So they might hand it to you, which is great. All of these are communication. So I might model help, right? I might model want because that's what they're communicating. I'm not going to model eat or finished, or maybe eat if it was a snack, but I'm not going to model finished, right? I'm going to model something that I think that they're communicating to me. The key here is there's no expectations. I'm going to model, I'm going to say help, I'll open it and I'll hand it back. Help, you wanted help, Reiko helped you. And so right then I got 4 models in, right? In that same 30-second communication interaction. Let's look at some more scenarios. I could give most of a routine, but not all of it, right? So I might say trains are your kiddo's favorite, right? We might set up the track, we might set up everything, but oh no, there's no train. I might have the train in my pocket, right? But oh no, there's no train. But I'm not going to point that out. We're going to set up the track together, and then I'm just going to wait. I'm going to model waiting again. Now, say this time there's no communication, right? Say I'm watching, I'm waiting, but I'm not seeing any indication that my kiddo has noticed that there's a train missing. So in this scenario, I would like overact and be like, oh no, I forgot the train. There's no train here. I want the train, and then bring it out, right? Maybe you do see some indication of, wait a minute, something's missing here. And so you might model want. I want the train. Or you could even go into questions and say, where's the train? You can do this with, I think, like any routine that is established, right? Like you could put a shoe on their hand and see what happens. You're just slightly messing with the expected to get an sort of like an unexpected sort of, oh wait, something's wrong here, right? And then the kiddo then needs your help in trying to troubleshoot. And if they don't seek your help for that, then we need to model, oh no, we need to look around. Where can I find the train? Okay, another strategy is to just give a little bit of something. So in this situation, we're giving just a little bit of juice, right? We're not going to fill the glass. We're just going to give a little bit, because what's going to happen is they're going to drink a little bit and then they're going to go, oh, it's all gone and I want more of that, right? So again, pour a little bit, put it in front of them and wait, see what happens. Hopefully you see some indication that they've noticed that, oh no, that the juice is all gone, right? They might hand you the cup or the water bottle. They might, sometimes I've seen kids throw it on the floor because they're like, oh, that's done, right? But then that also gives you something to model, right? So they throw it on the floor. You go, oh, finished. The drink is all finished. And then you might say, we need more. And then give them a little bit more, walk them to the water fountain, what have you. We would call this strategy like give a little bit. So another thing that's kind of interesting to think about is just not in terms of eating and drinking, but things that you get a little dose of and then it's finished. So something that kind of fits this category is swinging, weirdly enough. So I might put somebody on a swing and then swing them and yay, we're having fun and we're modeling go. And then we stop, right? And then we wait and then see if there's any sort of this kind of thing, or looking at you, or maybe even some tapping or something, any form of communication, and then we might model more. Another similar thing is music. So if your student likes music, sometimes you put music on and you just kind of like leave it on. But I treat it kind of like a dance and freeze sort of situation where I let the music play for a little bit and then I pause it, sometimes right before the most exciting part of the song, sometimes right before like the chorus, and then have the student kind of go, oh, something happened there. I need help with that, or play the music, or I want more music, whatever word you're going to choose there. You can also do this, with older students. Sometimes we're in PE and we've been working on ball skills. And then so a lot of that time, it might be me that's leading those sort of ball skills sort of activities. And so I might just allow the student to take the ball and then kind of go, okay, now what are you going to do? They might just drop the ball. They might throw it back to you, but we need to provide those opportunities and gaps in order for the student to realize that what they're going to do next in that routine. So in this situation, we might be modeling turn, right? My turn, your turn, more, lots of vocabulary that we can model. I also want to point out that all this modeling that I'm doing from the homepage of TouchChat. It doesn't mean that you have to be using TouchChat in order to use these strategies, right? You can be using any of the communication apps. I just picked something that, we use TouchChat a lot in this district. There's other apps that we use as well, but I just had to pick one for the purposes of this slide. So use this with any app, but we are using all core vocabulary, right? Like I'm not looking for the word ball. I'm not looking for the word marble. I'm just looking for the words that are going to be the easiest to access and write on that front page. Okay, and then what? Like I said, acknowledge any communication as meaningful. And we're going to add by modeling a word on the AAC system. In the intro to AAC video, we talked a little bit about what we want to do is basically augment the language input rather than focusing on the output. And by focusing on the input, we do get output, but in a more neurodiversity affirming sort of low pressure kind of way. So why are we doing this? We want AAC users to learn that their communication is powerful, their communication has meaning, and their communication can change their environment. And your homework for this week. What we want you to do is to create opportunities for communication, right? Think about those examples that I gave you, and I want you to wait the 10 seconds. In reality, there's going to be a bit of a balance that you need to find, right? Sometimes we need 10 seconds for processing, but it might be that after 5 seconds, your kiddo is over there. So you're going to need to find a balance. And maybe as you implement this strategy more and more, the kiddo learns, oh, I don't have to take off, right? So sometimes we see sort of that taking off as a little bit of like refusal, demand avoidance kind of sometimes. It could be also attention, right? But just try to find that balance and try to work that out a little bit. It does take a little bit of work, but it's really, really important. And also model without expectation. And before next week, I want you to think a little bit about when I model my child or student, what do they do? When I wait, what do they do? I also picked 2 core vocabulary words. You can do your own word of the week, word pair of the week, and choose your own. But if you would like to go and use the word that I have picked for you, I've picked a couple of words that I think will go nicely with this strategy. So the first one is more. You can also model the sign. And if your student is already producing more or is using some other words, you can add more, right? So if they're producing mama, for example, you could add more to it and say mama more, maybe like mama, I want you to do that again, right? Or car more water. So if they're already saying water, you can add to water by saying more water. And when I say, I mean either AAC or gesture or whatever. Another word I've picked for you is help. And again, here are some 2-word phrases. help car, help juice, help open. You might notice that these are not grammatically correct, and that is okay, right? At a 2-word sort of place, we just want words to be coming together. We're not super concerned about the order or the structure or grammar or anything like that. We just want to have 2 things coming together, 2 concepts coming together. Okay, so that's it. A quick morning meeting to talk about AAC strategy. Hopefully you find this helpful and you are able to implement this throughout the week. And we'll see you again next week for another strategy and a couple more words to work on. So thank you very much.